Great, and we're live. So welcome everybody to this remote interview. My name is Lisette, and I'm interviewing people and companies doing great things remotely. Today on the line, I have Brandon Brown. And Brandon, you're in Los Angeles right now, but you live in Budapest. Is that right? In Hungary?
That's correct.
Okay, great. And you're a virtual assistant, and that's how I met you, was through Jürgen Apollo. You've been helping him as a virtual assistant and others as well. And I really am interested in this virtual assistant lifestyle and why you're doing it and what you're doing and how it works. So that's why I invited you on the podcast. So thanks for being here.
No problem. Happy to help out and tell you about it.
Yeah, it's exciting. And I want to start with asking, what does your virtual office look like? What do you need to get your work done?
Well, my virtual office is sadly nothing special. Still working on it. But I do have a dedicated area in my apartment. Desk, chairs, pens, paper, and a lot of Post-it notes.
Oh?
A lot of Post-it notes and a big calendar.
Okay. And what do you do with your Post-it notes? How do you use them most?
Little reminders, put them on the wall. If I need to jot something down very quickly, then I'll do that. Something that I need to remember as opposed to typing it out on the computer.
Yeah. There's something about the tactile feeling of writing. Even now, you see my pen, I'm writing to keep track of things, and it's just so much nicer than typing for some reason.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, there's a different part of the brain that gets worked or something. So you're a virtual assistant. What does that mean? What does that mean?
I like to think of myself as, I don't know, the Swiss Army knife of virtual assistants. I really aim to do whatever it is that my clients need. And if I don't know how to do it, then I will do my best to figure it out. So I really want to take kind of whatever is, want them to forget whatever they're stressed about or whatever is really concerning them.
What kind of work does that tend to be for people who need virtual assistants?
So I've done quite a few things, but a lot of what I'm doing right now is website based. So like WordPress or website management, social media postings, newsletters, communications with clients. I'm working on an e-commerce store. So,
Okay. Yeah, I can imagine there's a lot of people that need help with that. I, in fact, hire people myself for WordPress management, newsletters, social media, all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah.
Interesting. So how did you get into this?
So I moved to Budapest in September of, 2015, to pursue a relationship. And I was looking for jobs in Budapest, but nothing seemed right for me. I have a background in mental health. So obviously, due to the language barrier, I wasn't able to continue that. And my partner at the time suggested I look at UpWork. And that's how I kind of fell into it. Yeah.
And tell us about your experience with UpWork. I've had my own experience with that, but I mean, you sign up, you fill out a profile, I guess you tag the things that you're good at and what you're looking for, but what does it look like when you're trying to look for work? I think there's a lot of people who've never experienced this.
It can be a little frustrating, especially if you don't have like a really specific skill set, say like, I don't know, you're a code, like a software engineer, or you do like business modeling or something along those lines. There's a lot of competition in the virtual assistant marketplace, and a lot of people who post jobs are actually, looking for cheap help.
Right. Right.
So weeding through that is always tough. And otherwise, my experience with it has been great. You build your reputation. One thing I find a little unfair is their rating system is done once the contract with whoever you're working with is terminated. So if you had like bad experiences towards the end, that reflects on your rating. And, you know, there's not much said about the great part at the beginning or the middle. So
Right. So you tend to get what you ended with. So you could have done a really great job and then screwed one thing up at the very end, and then the rating. So it's not a continual feedback system. It's like at the end of a project, however long it is, bam, that's what you get.
precisely, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I also had the experience that some people are looking for the lowest bidder, but some people are really looking for qualified work. How do you weed out? How do you know? Like,
That's
what's
true.
your little red flag that says, like,
Mhm.
this is a real company looking for real work?
Yeah. I, there's a couple of things. First of all, I filter by, you know, what people are looking for, like expert help. I'll look at those. And then I take the time, obviously, and read the job descriptions. And you can tell when when someone is looking for, you know, quality work by how much time they've put into their job post. I think,
Oh,
in my opinion and in my experience, that is very telling.
the quality of post that, okay. So if there's just a one liner, then you know, okay, this
Mhm.
is not well thought through. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can also, you know, look at their history of contractors they've hired through Upwork, um, and kind of the rates that they've been willing to pay and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. So there is sort of a feedback system where there's in terms of there's some level of transparency in terms of what they've done in the past and what they're doing in the future and the job description. So when you get hired by a client, how do you normally communicate, or is there a normal way? Is everybody
Mhm.
different?
Um, yeah, everyone's different, but mostly it's through some type of messaging. Not so much email, but
Oh,
WhatsApp. Um, we'll get on a productivity platform and message there. Uh, that way, there's more of like, you know, a thread, a running history of what you've been talking about. Whereas you could potentially, an email conversation, you know, have multiple threads happening and things get lost in
is there a,
cyberspace.
yeah, yeah, or in our own inboxes, we've all experienced that. Is there a common tool that gets used a lot?
Um, no, actually, every person that I've worked for has used a different productivity platform. I think there are some overlaps, um, like Google Docs, Dropbox. Um, but as far as like to-do lists and that type of productivity platform, it's all been different. I've had
Interesting.
experience with Asana, Huddle, which I particularly didn't care for, um, and Trello, which I love.
What didn't you like about Huddle?
Um, I didn't like the user interface. I found it was very plain. Um, you know, working online, looking at a computer all day, you want like clean design, something that's glanceable and easily digestible. Um, you couldn't. This really annoyed me, but you couldn't upload like a document to the task that you were working on. You had to upload it to like a central database and then go to the task that you're working on and upload it from.
That database to the,
Yeah,
right.
it's just unnecessary. In today's drag and drop world, unnecessary.
Right. I really like, though, I think what you've just said is very important. When you're working online all day, you want your tools to be good. The design matters. I mean, to some people it matters more than others. Like my husband loves um, the Thunderbolt display on Apple because you can just see every pixel, you know. And for me, like I see it, but it doesn't make such a big difference for me. But when he looks at it, it's really a thing. And these programs that have bad design, they can really drive people crazy a little bit when you're, especially the user experience, if you're having to do inefficient things, especially over time. So that, I think that's a really important thing for tools to be considering. And okay, so you're communicating over some sort of chat or productivity platforms. What's hard for you about working with virtual clients?
What's hard is getting to know them. Working virtually, it could be kind of impersonal and cold, and there's a lot to be said of, what can be gained or learned about a person from those experiences where you're not talking about work, when you're talking just about your day, or this experience you had over lunch that really annoyed you or something like that. So that has been a challenge, because I want to make sure I'm doing things in a way that my client wants.
Of course.
And, if I'm unsure of how they would respond to something, or, handle another business matter, it makes it a little difficult.
What percentage approximately of your clients use video to communicate with you?
Very low.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The initial conversations, video, but down the line, it's either just over the phone or text.
Interesting. That's, I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but I always am surprised because I love video so much. So I am surprised. So how do you personally get to know the clients? What is it that you do to be proactive about that process?
I try to be a little as chatty as possible. Ask them about their day whenever we have a phone conversation or a video, the seldom video chats, and really just try to be friendly about things and throw my 2 cents in where appropriate. To kind of to humanize the interaction a bit.
Have you ever had a negative experience trying to do that? Has anybody responded
no?
Oh, okay,
I don't think so, because I think everyone to a certain extent likes to be asked how they're doing or what's wrong, and have the chance to vent. I know I do. So everyone's been pretty open to talking about other things that are going on. Okay.
So what about the things that work really well? What do you like about this kind of work the most?
I like that I get to build my own schedule. I get to work from anywhere. Currently in LA, still working. And the variety of work that I get to do. I don't have a job description. I can, right now I'm doing a lot of virtual assistant work, but in the past I've, assisted a client with a presentation that was given to the EU Commission on higher education, and I've done project proposals for a gentleman actually here in LA that was trying to open a homeless shelter. So I can, pick and choose the jobs that I want.
That's probably, oh, I see. Right. So you can go after things that you would actually really like, and then try and get those. Yeah. Okay.
And also just to throw some, variety into my everyday life, I guess. So I'm not anything over and over.
Right. The repetitive tasks, I think, is, I know that robots are going to be taking over, but I feel like they should be the ones doing the boring, repetitive work anyway. So let them do it, and let the humans do the interesting stuff. But Yeah, that's so what about keeping yourself motivated? Because it's you, right? You're working in your apartment. Where do you work from? Do you work from your apartment mostly? Do you go to coffee shops? Where do you do your work? And how do you stay motivated?
Yeah, that's been a challenge, and I've had to learn to manage that. I do correct. You're correct. I do work from my apartment, and I've really had to try and stick to a schedule. You know, uh, waking up by a certain time, um, handling all the work from one client first, and then the next client, and following up on emails and things like that. It's really important to set a schedule for yourself, because I think it's very easy to like fall into a loungy lifestyle.
I like that, falling into a loungy lifestyle. Yeah, indeed. I mean, did you have this instinctually right from the start? I mean, did you set your own schedule right from the start, or did you how did you learn that that was important for you?
Um, no, I didn't do that right from the start. And it took me a couple of months, um, once I started, I started to work later and later during the day, and then there were like things in the evening that I would want to do with my friends, but I then wouldn't have the time because I was still working. Um, and then I'm at home alone working all day, and then I can't go out in the afternoon to see my friends. So
Then you're home alone all day working or lounging.
mhm.
Yeah.
I'm not a recluse. I need like my person to person interaction. So I really had to, set a schedule and stick to it.
Okay. Do you have any other productivity tips that you use for yourself?
Um, no, that's about it. I think, you know, certain in that regard, there are many different things that work for different people. Um, but I think it's the most important thing is to have a schedule. And however that looks for you is fine.
Yeah, whatever works. So if you're a morning person or an evening person, or
Exactly.
interesting. So I want to talk about tools that you use for yourself. How do you keep yourself organized?
hmm Um, obviously the productivity platforms online help, and for me, I do a lot of note taking, either with my post-its or on the computer, and my big calendar that I use.
And you said you
Um,
had a paper calendar, right? Like you have a physical calendar that you use.
mhm, like a desk calendar.
Okay.
Yeah,
So why a desk calendar? What about that works for you?
old school. um, and ever since I started working, I used to work in the mental health field, and there were like 60 clients that I had to keep track of, like their doctor's appointments, therapy appointments, um, just social workers were coming to visit them, things like that. And so it was just nice to, actually write it down and like see what the week or the day looks like.
Hmm. I can imagine. So why though a written one over an electronic one?
It's because it's nice and big.
Yeah,
um,
fair
I,
enough.
I do put it in electronic one as well, but I don't know. There's something to be said about, picking up a pen and writing
Yeah.
it down. There you go.
It's, yeah, I have a whole book full of notes, and I could put it in Evernote and tag it and look it up. And I just prefer to, because I know exactly which notebook. I have like 10 notebooks. I know exactly which notebook it's in. I know about where it is. And I even like flipping through the pages just to see the old notes too. So yeah,
Mhm.
I understand. I'm just curious. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I just can't, like, I can take notes on the computer all day, but then going back and looking at them, it's hard. I'd rather go back and look at something that I've written.
Yeah, I think you're not alone there. I would love to hear from people who are listening to this interview, how that is for you. But I have the same. I used to take all my notes online, and once I started writing them down, I really I remembered them more. So I think there's definitely something to that. I'm sure somebody in the education field can be like, oh yeah, we've known that for ages and ages.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. And I want to talk about how your friends who have normal desk jobs, how do they respond to this virtual, like because you have a lot of freedom. So yeah, while you were working while they were going out, but eventually you got the system down so that you were able to work from wherever you wanted and go out, I'm sure.
Mhm.
So what do people say? Is this weird to them? Is it new? Friends and family, I should add. Like, what does your family think? What do your friends think?
Mhm. Um, my friends most of the time are quite jealous, um, especially this past summer. Being I would go out like for a walk in the middle of the day or something, or early in the morning, and they're stuck in the office that may or may not have air conditioning.
Mm,
So um, yeah, and just getting to do, I don't know, in Budapest there's a lot of spas and there's outdoor pools as well, and so getting to do that in the middle of the day when it's not so crowded is really nice, and they're particularly jealous of that. Um, and my parents think it's great. My family thinks it's great because you know the jobs that I want and the jobs that I've applied for, I've continually had the opportunity to learn something, to improve my skill set, and so they're, as long as I'm improving myself and happy, they're all for it.
would it be tough to go back to a normal desk job after doing this kind of work? How long have you been doing this now?
Um,
I think September 2015, you said, right?
yeah, but I didn't start in September. I started in February.
Ah, okay, so it's a little less than a year.
Mhm.
Okay.
Before
Well,
that, I was looking for a desk job, but it would be extremely hard because I've actually never really had a proper desk job. When I was working in the mental health field, I was always up and about, um, taking clients to, their appointments, walking around the facility to handle whatever was happening. So I've never been stuck at an office desk. So this being stuck, working on the computer virtually is the most office-like job that I've actually
oh,
had. So even more like in a more constrained environment than what I have now would be very difficult for me.
right. Once you've tasted the freedom, it's hard to go back. But I've done it before just as an experiment. So it happens. And also, they offered me so much money that my eyes were like boing. And so then I was like, well, okay, how bad could an office job be? I didn't last very long, but the money was fun.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that can also be very tempting. So what about, okay, so I wanted we're getting towards the end of the time, but I want to ask for people who are starting out, who are thinking of becoming virtual assistants, what advice would you give them? You've already said it's fierce competition. So I can imagine people are thinking like, oh, I could just be a virtual assistant. Like, well, you're competing with a lot of people.
Hmm.
What advice do you have, like things to think about before doing it? If it's
Yeah.
your son who's about to go out, you'd be like, okay, son, before you do this,
Hmm.
down.
Um, so what I learned, and probably if what I learned but didn't do, and if I had to do it again, I would definitely do, is especially on a platform like Upwork, where it ranks you on your reputation and shows you to new. You'll pop up as like a suggested freelancer based off of things like that and your work history. So I would definitely, you know, go in, and if there are friends that you have or people that that need small jobs done, do that for them, because I mean, people will filter their jobs. They only want up workers who have worked over 100 hours and have over a certain percentage, like a job success rating. And so when you're first starting out, both of those are zero. Um,
Right.
so the alternative is to, having friends hire you for jobs. The alternative is to set like setting a low rate.
Right. I remember actually when I worked with Elance, which was before it was UpWork, in order to start and build my reputation, I had to start with a low rate. And then once I had a reputation, I could raise my rates.
Exactly.
Right. Or, but your idea of having friends hire you, whoever hires you, do it through the platform and then also build your reputation that way. But you're right. Building your reputation in the beginning is really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you recommend, are there other tools besides UpWork that you've used and liked?
As far as acquiring jobs and work, no, actually, Upwork is the only one I use.
It's the only one I've tried, to be honest. So I also, and I really like it. There's a few things here and there in the design that I would improve and a few things I would change, of course. But in terms of facilitating work between a company and an employee, it seems to be pretty good.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Okay.
Although I don't have experience with anything else, but it's been great. Yeah.
And you've been able to make a living for since February, finding work as a virtual assistant online. I think that's pretty inspiring for people who are scared to quit their jobs and don't know what else is out there. And I mean, it sounds like some of the advice you would give is, well, start building your reputation on some of these online platforms before you quit your job. And then you have something to fall back on. How much work out there is there? I mean, is there work for everyone? Is it really, how stiff is the competition?
In the virtual assistant realm, it's pretty stiff. There's always probably someone that will undercut you in terms of rate. But there's all types of work. I have a friend in communications who I've been pitching Upwork to because he doesn't really like his job very much. I'm telling him there's people on Upwork looking for, like corporate image revamps, or, they want to do like a media campaign, but they don't want to hire like a marketing firm.
Right.
And like, those are things you can do on the side to get going in the virtual work.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a scary time for companies who have a crappy work environment, because those of us who really care about the work we do and are passionate about what we do, there's alternatives now like Upwork where we can go and we can find the work that suits us best and work that we like. And yeah, maybe you get paid a lower rate than you would at some of these office jobs, maybe, but it's worth it I would think, to have the freedom of working when you want and on the projects that you like.
I think so. Going back to my friend, he's been with this company for a little over a year, and in his team of 5, like, they've had 9 people come through.
Wow.
So there's something going on there. And yeah, for him to be able to do the work that he's able to and what he's studied, and not have that toxic environment, would be great.
Yeah, and I know he's not alone. And I think, also from working with Happy Melly and Happy Melly subject type things, that many, many people hate their jobs. And so 2 encouraging things out of this is, 1, if you hate your job, there are alternatives, and start looking now, and don't compete in the virtual assistant space because Brandon's got it covered. So do something else. Do something that Brandon's not doing. So make it. But it's nice to know that there's alternatives. And for companies who are listening, be aware that these alternatives are only becoming more and more common. So if you're not treating your employees well, or if your morale is low, I'd pay attention to that, because those of us who can will leave. I think that's something I've been saying in my presentations to companies now, and I don't think they believe me, or they don't.
No, it's very true. There's a whole like numbers of people who live abroad and work remotely.
Right, you've probably connected with a number of them. Being an expat in another country, there's probably a number of people that you're seeing also.
Yeah.
Has it been hard in terms of living in another country and doing this kind of work?
Yeah, there are certain jobs that I haven't been able to get because the information cannot leave the US.
Mm,
So like internet security issues. And I apply for jobs mostly in the US because I think just most of them are in the US. And but anyway, so when they find out that I'm in Budapest, they're kind of like, "What? Budapest?"
right.
Kind of turns them off a little bit, but
What do you
uh,
think it is about that? Because I've had that experience before where I fail to mention where I am because I know it will just distract people
mhm.
from.
um, fear of the other. I don't know. First of all, I don't think. I mean, Budapest is not a big or well-known city in most people's consciousness in the U.S. at least.
It's
Um,
considered exotic.
yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, I'm sure if I told them I was in London or Paris or Frankfurt, Munich, Amsterdam, they'd be like, "Oh, okay." But Budapest is. Oh,
Oh,
where is Budapest? I,
interesting.
yeah,
Oh, silly Americans. It's,
I know.
I hear it. I hear it too. I hear that a lot. Interesting.
Yeah.
So do you try to keep the location from them as long as possible? Or do you
Um,
just,
so my location on my profile is set to California, um, and I think that's helped as far as like getting invitations to interview. Um, but usually, if not in the first like letter I send to them, definitely by the second I tell them, um, because there are things that there are disadvantages to that, such as like the time difference, um, especially if they want you to be available from a certain time during their working day. That's not there
right,
may
you're
or
not
may
going to
not
work
work.
till 1 a.m. I mean,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Um, yeah.
Okay. Super interesting. So, very last question, which is an easy one, which is if somebody needs a virtual assistant and they want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do it?
I would tell you find me on LinkedIn or Upwork, but Brandon Brown is probably one of the most common names in the world.
Interesting dilemma, indeed. So, so yeah, let's get specific.
Um, so I'd say send me an email
Okay.
at bbrown0034@gmail.com.
I'll put it in the show notes too for people. So if they want that, then it's easy to. Great. So send you an email. If you need a virtual assistant, Brandon Brown is your Swiss Army knife of virtual assistants here to help. So, and because you've been working with Jurgen so long, and I'm a big slavish fangirl of Jurgen and his work. And when Jurgen is pleased with somebody, that says a lot. So I'll tell people who are listening, Jurgen is pleased with the work. So you can already know that it comes, you've already got the highest referral that I know of being possible at the moment. So cool. Well, thanks. I really appreciate you taking the time today to talk to me and to tell us about your experience of being a virtual assistant. Super interesting. And I hope it inspires a lot of people to quit jobs that they hate. So thanks so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Until next time, be powerful.
Bye.